Shabbat Shalom. This week, in our annual cycle of Torah reading, we come to the end of Leviticus. It is a book that for the modern reader, and that is anyone born in the last 1,951 years since the destruction of the Second Temple, for any of those folks, it presents significant challenges. Its detailed descriptions of temple sacrificial rituals, complex, obscure, and disturbing to our sensibilities, can cause an intellectually honest reader to exclaim, wait a minute, this is not my Judaism. And who among us here in the sanctuary or zooming in from home became b'mitzvah after studying and reading a text from Leviticus? Anyone? You don't want to tell us. It's okay. This is challenging learning and challenging teaching indeed. I have encountered these difficulties personally, and I know from my experience in the Tuesday night Torah study that some of you have too. The reason for this is apparent in the English name of the book. Actually, it's Latin, drawn from Greek. Leviticus is a handbook of sorts for the Levitical priests who had responsibility for officiating temple sacrifices. And of course, sacrifice is no longer relevant in our Jewish experience. At this point in my evolution as a human, a Jew, and a rabbi, I have come to this understanding of Leviticus. The power of its Torah, its instruction, is in the big picture rather than in the small details. And tonight, I would like to offer you two ideas for making sense of Leviticus. The first idea I'd like to share with you comes from chapter 25, and it goes like this. And Adonai spoke to Moshe on Mount Sinai, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when you come into the land that I give you, the land shall observe a Shabbat of Adonai. For 6 years you may sow your field, and for 6 years you may prune your vineyard, and you may gather in its crop. But on the 7th year, a complete rest shall there be for the land, a Shabbat for Adonai. This text describes the 7-year cycle that functions as a Shabbat for the land, and also called the Shemitah year, literally the 7th year. Rabbi Josh Weinberg teaches, what if you had to let go? What if you were mandated to step away, to close up shop, to leave your work, to go home from school, from your fields, from your cultivated land, to sit, to breathe, and to renew? What would you do? How would you respond? How would you prepare? In hindsight, we may tell ourselves we would know exactly what to do. Maybe it would be a welcome break, and maybe it would cause suffering and anguish. But if we were in biblical times, we would know to expect a clean break every 7 years. Just like humans are mandated to refrain from work every 7 days, so too must the land regenerate and take a break to avoid inevitable fatigue and weariness. This cycle gives not only the earth a break, but its principles provide a framework for ethics and justice, land stewardship and sustainability, and providing food for everyone regardless of their ability to pay for it. The food that grew naturally belongs to everyone and therefore is available to everyone. As you might expect, there are a lot of details in making this work. Imagine, you can't eat, you can't plant, and you can't take care of crops, and you can't harvest them. How do you eat? There are some answers provided in Torah, but not all of the answers that we might need if we were going to go out and do this next year. Nevertheless, I am inspired that Leviticus offers not only rules for personal conduct, but creates a system for communal benefit. And I have some news to share. The next Shemitah year is 5782, which begins on Labor Day. I look forward to learning together with all of you on the opportunities that the Shemitah year will offer us. The second idea that I would like to offer is rooted in the Hebrew name of this book, Vayikra. Vayikra el Moshe v'yadaber Adonai elav me'ohel moed lemor daber el bnei Israel. God called to Moses from the tent of meeting, saying, "Speak to the Israelite people." While many of the details that follow are for the priests to enact or to adjudicate, God commands Moses to speak to the entire Israelite people. Why is this? My beloved teacher, Rabbi Devorah Weisberg, offers an explanation in this week's Torah commentary on Parashat Behar-Bechukotai, published by the URJ. And as an aside, it brought me great joy to see Rabbi Weisberg's teaching reach a large audience. She writes, the Torah's vision for holiness and wholeness lies in its insistence throughout Leviticus that Moses, when enunciating the behaviors that God desires, speaks to the entire people. Leviticus is aware that each individual experiences unique moments of joy and gratitude, sickness and pain, but its focus is on the community of Israel. It is the Israelite community that has the capacity for holiness through its collective acceptance of a vision. Whether Israel is guided by a king, by judges, by priests, or by prophets, the Torah's vision cannot be achieved by leaders alone. Only when individuals see themselves as part of the community, responsible for their own behavior and for the welfare of those around them, can they be an Am Kodesh, a holy people. If we understand this message, then the book of Leviticus ceases to be a recitation of sometimes bizarre practices and emerges as a blueprint for bringing the divine, the eternal one, into the world. My friends, I invite you to embrace the possibility of taking in the message that Leviticus brings. It is up to us as a collective to bring holiness and justice to the earth and to each other. May we each be inspired to do God's will. Shabbat Shalom.